I think all of those societal messages that say if you're not this, then you're other than. I think what I've realized is that most people are other than. Most people do not fit into what the media tells us is what we should fit into. I've lost over the last 18 months over 100 pounds. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, she's not body positive anymore. She's lost all this weight. But I had to do what I had to do for my health. And that doesn't mean that I don't love myself at every stage. I loved myself 100 pounds ago and I love myself now.
Adrienne Nichole, thank you so much for coming on my show, The Real Deal. A mutual friend actually sent me your Instagram account and I was blown away. Your personality first, that's like the first thing that got me. Then your style, that's like the second thing that got me. And then what you had to talk about, that just pulled me right in because you're all about body positivity and just accepting where you are, and just creating a space for everybody. How's that journey been for you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I need to come here every day. Just all the
just every day. All the compliments. There'll be more. Don't worry about it.
But body positivity has been an interesting journey for me. I feel like I spent a lot of my life getting like these mixed signals. I've been plus size all my life. And, as a little girl, on one hand being told like, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so pretty. And then on the other hand being told, let's lose a few pounds, So I always felt like I was in the middle of two identities, I guess, of feeling like I was good in some areas. And then this one area, I just like wasn't enough. And, as I got older, and just really started figuring out who I was as a woman, I realized that I didn't want to spend my life with this shadow. Like, you can be, so great. You can be at the pinnacle of your career and you can have this and you can have that. But because of your weight, because of how you look, this set of things is off limits to you. Maybe dating is off limits to you, or marriage, or having what people consider like the picture perfect life. And so I just decided to live my life. I decided that if those things were supposed to come to me, they would come to me no matter where I am. And through that process, it's actually interesting because I think a lot of times, in the body positivity community, there isn't always a concern for health. And so I don't want to be misleading and say that one shouldn't be concerned about their health. But I think tying weight to health is a very dangerous thing because you really can't tell where someone stands with their health by looking at them. One way or the other, big or small or medium. And so I think I've now kind of transitioned into, I'm in my 30s, and I've really transitioned into doing what's best for me as far as health is concerned. I lost over the last 18 months over 100 pounds. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, she's not body positive anymore. She's lost all this weight. But I had to do what I had to do for my health. And that doesn't mean that I don't love myself at every stage. I loved myself 100 pounds ago and I love myself now. And if I lose another 50 pounds or I never lose another pound, I love myself. And so I think it's the journey has been figuring out how to not tie my worth, what I can accomplish or what I can have in life to my weight.
Well, I love that you say that because that's actually you have a video on Instagram of you talking about how the body positive movement has become like the other side of the pendulum. Like if you lose weight, you start to get villainized. And that's exactly like the point is it doesn't matter how I look. I should have the choice, to feel comfortable wherever I fall on that scale. And you just resonated a lot with me because I've been going through a couple of health things and I've gained some weight. And I've had people who've noticed and say, hey, Bree, you've put on a couple of pounds. And that's hard.
Don't we just love that? Isn't that just so fun? Like we don't see ourselves every day.
Yeah. And for me, weight has been a struggle. It's been a struggle. There's been times where I've been tiny. I've been a size 4. There's been times where I've been a size 12. And a lot of in the middle. But when people start to comment and believe that they have a say in how you look and have no idea what you're dealing with in the process, I love that people are coming out and saying, hold on, wait a minute, this is not fair. Because maybe there is a reason I cannot be that size, and who says that's the size I need to be? Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the freedom that you found, because you just said, I'm just going to live my life. And I love that. I love how candidly you said that too, because I feel like we're in a moment where people just need to live their lives. Tell me what that means for you.
I think it means, again, not tying my weight, or even it's not even always attached to weight, financial status, what kind of job I have.
Yeah.
I think, and social media gets a bad rap for a lot. Social media is not bad. Social media has been good to me. It can be very good. It can be very bad, but it can be very good.
Yeah.
But I think one of the downsides of it is, we can often look through our feeds and get the sense that we're not enough in every area. If we're not married, if we don't have children, if we don't have a certain kind of house. I saw something the other day that just talked about the conversation around social media and consumer culture, and this idea that if you buy a house, it has to come fully furnished now. Like there's no more like, oh, you bought the house, maybe wait a few minutes, wait a few months to get the furniture. Yeah. It's this idea that, because so-and-so had money to fully furnish their home. So like, and I think we have all these messages, some intentional, some unintentional, telling us we're not enough.
Yeah.
We're not doing enough. We're not successful enough. We don't make enough money. We're not small enough, whatever the case may be. And so I think just deciding where I am, who I am, whatever place that I'm in life is enough in that moment. And if I have goals, goals are fine. I can have goals to achieve a certain level in my career, a certain financial level, a certain, level of, being strong in the gym, being able to lift, whatever my goals are. It's okay to have those, but also where I am today while I'm working towards those goals is enough.
Yeah.
And I really believe that if we can't find happiness today, if we can't find peace today, contentment today, we'll never be able to find it when we reach the pinnacle of whatever we've decided for ourselves is success.
Wow.
So
I love that too. I love that. So you just recently got married.
I did.
And you talked about how for a while your identity was not your identity, but people tried to wrap your identity in, when are you going to get married? Are you married yet? And maybe you won't be able to if you don't do X, Y, and Z.
It's been a beautiful journey.
Yeah.
My husband and I have a very interesting story. We met on Instagram of all places. I never envisioned that happening.
Yeah.
Obviously I wasn't an apps girl. I always told people I was never like on the dating apps. And so I literally, it's so funny. Like I told God, like, my husband is gonna have to like just come to me, like knock on my door, especially during the pandemic. We met in 2020.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, well, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So he, and it's so funny too, because there, you always see these things like, your husband's not just gonna knock on your door.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, mine did.
Yeah.
So every story is
He
different.
slid into your DMs. That's
He
what
did. He slid into the DMs, which, might as well. He knocked on my social media door. But it's been an incredible journey. I think in all of my previous relationships, I've been blessed to, even though obviously they didn't work out, those people weren't the people that I was supposed to be with. They weren't the ones, but my weight was never a factor. And I think that helped me to be confident in that area and to know who I was supposed to be with.
Yeah.
That's who I would be with. And so when I met my husband and he, loved me wholly and completely, never brought up my weight, like ever.
Yeah.
And I was actually like just starting kind of like my weight loss journey. And so he met me at, my heaviest, you know, and never said a thing, encourages me daily. And so I think that's also helped heal a lot of, you know, those little parts in my heart that are still, you know, 5 and being like put on a diet, you know? Yeah. So I think like, and you know, I don't mean to, my parents were doing what they believed was best. And, you know, I don't think they knew what to do. And, you know, there are societal norms and I think people uphold parents, especially I grew up in the 90s, which is like peak diet culture. Yes. And so, you know, I don't mean to say that to just criticize them in any way, but I think, you know, it sends messages and those messages stay with you. Yeah. And so our dating relationship and even in our marriage, my husband has his own story when it comes to, he's a slim guy, but he has his own story when it comes to, you know, being able to accept his body. He was like on the other end of the spectrum where he was a small little guy and was, you know, kind of picked on for that. And I think, and that's his story to tell, but I think, we've decided to come together and just have different conversations and create a different environment for, you know, our future children. And we practice that with each other every day and how we talk about ourselves, how we talk about each other, the language that we have around, you know, our bodies, around food and exercise. We really try to keep it very positive, very encouraging, and just as a part of our life and not really like honing in on, you know, little things that honestly don't matter. Yeah. So,
wow. So I love that you are in a space where it's just a full acceptance. That's what I'm feeling from you. And you're now saying, why is this even a conversation? I mean, it's a conversation because we're having it right now. But tell me about how you've gotten to this point from a 5-year-old who's being put on a diet to saying enough.
That's a loaded question, but I think, you know, it's been a journey. It's been little by little of just chipping away at all the messages that society sends when you don't fit the norm. And that can be in any way. That can be, you know, being Black, being, you know, I have a friend who's a redhead and all her family is blonde. And I feel like there's all these messages that like, if you're not white and blue-eyed and blonde hair and thin, then you're kind of an outlier. And so I think just rejecting those messages and little by little chipping away and saying, no, everybody, you don't have to be that to have anything, to have what you want, accomplish what you want, be seen as beautiful. I think that's the amazing thing about social media is we get to see all these different types of beauty that, you know, normally we never got to see across different mediums. And so that helps too, just building community around people who have differences, people who are outliers, and just being able to see the beauty in those differences. I think that helps as well.
Yeah. Well, I love that you've been able to find the sense of peace, because studies do show that people who feel like they don't fit, like they're overweight or their body doesn't fit the norm, that they suffer from things like depression and imposter syndrome and anxiety more than anybody else, because you're worried about how you look 24/7. You're worried about how people are going to treat you. You have harder times getting access to these things than your peers. And it's hard. It's a journey to get to where you've gotten. And that takes a resilience that I don't think many of us have. How do you think you were able to get to where you are now?
I think one of the important things, and again, not to bring social media into every part of the conversation, but I think all of those societal messages that say if you're not this, then you're other than. I think what I've realized is that most people are other than. most people do not fit into what the media tells us is what we should fit into, or what we should aspire to be. And so I think realizing that I think right now the average woman in the US is a size 18, 16, 18. So it's normal. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with anyone. I think like just actually being able to live in reality and realize that most people are outliers, and knowing that, well, I'll say this. I think that brings a certain amount of peace, but I also think it's a daily decision, you know? There are constant messages, obviously, that come at us, you know, TV, magazines, socials, whatever it is, that tell us that we're not enough. And I think just making that daily decision to say, no, I am. And maybe sometimes stepping away from those things too, I think is important, because sometimes it's hard when we're in a certain place in life, especially if we're walking through a hard season. Sometimes it's harder to mentally deal with constantly receiving those messages. So sometimes I just have quiet days and I go away. It's not to say I never have a day where I'm like, oh, I really don't like my body today. Or, you know, I really wish, you know, this curly hair was a little bit straighter, like, and a little bit easier to manage, or whatever it is. But I think just making that daily decision to say, I'm enough. And, you know, personally, as a Christian, I also look to the Word of God, and I look to my spirituality. I look within for how I make my decisions on who I am, on what my worth is. And that's honestly my foundation.
You know, in season 1, we really focused on comparison culture and diversity and just the pressures that society put on us that sometimes leads to imposter syndrome, depression, past traumas that just kind of validate some of these messages that we're getting from society that we're not enough or that we don't measure up. And that's hard to navigate. But what I love about what you do is that you've created a space on, social media where a lot of us are getting these messages to say, no, actually, you are enough. And if you don't feel like it, here are the tools that you need to do that. I love that you have this community on Facebook as well. I want to make sure I say it right. It's Grow
Glam Guide Plus.
Glam Guide Plus. Okay. Glam Guide. And I've gotten a couple, I like your style. I've gotten a couple of inspirational, from the outfits that you pick out and everything. And just to see you glow with that confidence and say, look, this is what I got today. And just trying it out and just not, I hate the phrase putting yourself out there, but showing up is just really great to see. What is something that you wish people would take away from the work that you're doing?
I think that they are enough, that whatever their needs are, I know a lot of people follow me for, outfit inspiration, for a laugh, for, a confidence boost. And so I just want them to walk away feeling good. I want them to walk away feeling like they have someone. I think one of the things that sometimes makes people feel so isolated and feel like they can't accept themselves, love their bodies, wherever their body is now, is that they don't see themselves. So I think having that point of connection to say, oh, that girl, she looks like me. She has a similar body type to mine. And here's where she shops. Here's what she's wearing. Again, do I love my body every single moment of every single day? No. But just making a conscious choice to say, this is the body that I have. I'm going to honor it. I'm going to respect it. I'm going to treat it well. And I'm going to dress it well.
Yeah.
And so I really want them to walk away feeling like they can do the same.
Yeah. When you were growing up, was there a representation or someone that kind of planted this seed for you?
It's so interesting because I had plus size women in my life, most of the women in my life growing up were plus size women, and they hated their bodies and they hated themselves. There was such a lack of resources. But there weren't the resources that there are now. And so I can't blame them, because they had those messages with really no representation, sending them an opposite message. But I think when I look back, even though they were always trying to change their bodies, always trying to diet, always trying to lose weight. I'll take my mom as an example. Very successful woman, very educated woman, married, raised a child, like has all of the things in life that anyone could want. And that's something to be proud of. That's something to celebrate. And, I hate that, and as she's gotten older, and I think she's seen me, she started to embrace, just where she is a little bit more. But I hate that, she spent so many years with all of these amazing things in her life, and then had this burden of like feeling like her body wasn't enough. And so, to answer your question, yes, I had lots of examples of plus size women, who were doing amazing things, living amazing lives, but they still always were burdened by their body. And so I think I'm determined to just kind of break that generational curse, so to speak, and to say, I'm going to work to achieve all of the things that these women that I look up to achieved, and I'm going to love my body while I'm doing it. So
I love that you say breaking that generational curse, because I see that all over you. Breaking that generational curse of, I need to be smaller. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I need to be smaller. And I know that for me and my family, all of the women, they all fought that of, I need to be smaller. Especially, they just wanted to be accepted. They were getting hit from all these other areas of, you're not enough, you're not the right color, you don't have the right background. And they were still thriving, but they felt like that missing piece that would get them to where they wanted to be would be for them to lose weight. And that wasn't the case. It just wasn't. And so to now, here in 2023, to say, no, there's going to be a different story. I commend you for that, because that's not easy, because I know that I haven't gotten there. I'm not in that space yet, the way I will want to be. What would you say to the little girl watching this, or the mom of the little girl watching this, who are struggling to find that confidence to let some of those thoughts or that pressure to fit that mold? What would you say to them?
I think I would say don't hyper focus on it. I think one thing that I've learned about living just a whole lifestyle is, I work out like 6 times a week. It's a part of my day, and I move on. And if I want a piece of cake, I have a piece of cake. I, try to eat whole foods, just because I'm 30 something and my body, cannot do the McDonald's and the Taco Bell at this point. It's not happening. I feel better when I eat, whole foods, but if I were to want that one day, it's okay. I think the first step is to live life and living a healthy life, whatever that means for someone, because it's not just about food. It's not just about exercise. It's about many things. It's about mental health, and so many other things. It takes so many other things in addition to those things to live a whole life. But I think just not hyper focusing on weight, not hyper focusing on looks. I think, I was always told like, oh, you're so pretty. Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, growing up. And I think it was the one thing that people, because my weight was always higher than what people felt it should be, it was like, but your face, you're such a pretty. And so that's what was hyper focused on. And I think, even that impaired me in some ways.
How did it feel hearing that just over and over again?
It's a backhanded compliment, and I think I never really was able to see like what they were talking about for so long, because I was like, but how? Because and not that, there weren't times where I thought I was cute or whatever, but I never really saw like outside of being smaller how I could truly be beautiful. But beauty comes from the inside. And I think focusing on the physical in any capacity, whether it's weight, hair, skin color, whatever it is, beauty doesn't start there. So I think to hyper focus on any of those things is to kind of like start from behind. I think the focus has to be inner beauty. The focus has to be what someone's character is. I'm not a mother yet, but I plan on, building my children's character, making sure that they're honest, making sure that they are compassionate, helping them to be caring, helping them to be kind. I think those are the things that really allow beauty to emanate from someone. And how they look is secondary to those things.
Secondary. Yeah. Wow. I love that. We've definitely been trying to raise a young man of character, our 5-year-old. We're not successful all the time, but we're getting there. He is a sweet kid, but he has a lot of energy. And so I can resonate with that and understand that. Where do you go from here with Glam Guide?
I think I'm just continuing the journey. I think, for a long time, I was so concerned with like likes and followers and building and growing that number. I think now I'm more focused on just building community and detaching my worth from the number of followers that I have or the number of likes that I might get on a post. And I'm kind of just taking people on the journey of my life.
Yeah.
And that's what feels good to me right now. It feels sustainable.
Yeah.
And comfortable. And I think too, just with age, I don't care that much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just like, if you like it, then great. And if you don't, then that's okay too, Yeah.
There's something about 30 that makes you go, you
Yeah.
know what?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to give.
Because when I lay in bed at night, my husband's beside me, but it's me. And I have to be okay with me. And I have to be okay with how I've shown up in the world every day. And so I'm moving past letting any outside force dictate the amount of peace or joy or, contentment that I have within myself. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I love that we're having this conversation. I love that you came on the show and we've been able to get to sit together side by side, not just digitally. This has just been a pleasure for me. So thank you so much, Adrienne. You are the real deal. This has been The Real Deal with Brie Clark. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and you can continue to follow the show on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Until next time, real conversations with real people.